Sex and human trafficking often goes under the radar in Maine, and when law enforcement officers come across those cases, prosecutors say they don't always have the guidance they need to help the survivors. Now at the State House, those prosecutors and other advocates are pushing for a new bill that would require local police departments to set a protocol for certain trafficking cases. News Center Maine's Raya Wooten has the details.
I was trafficked as a 15-year-old here in Maine.
As a young mother who was taken advantage of during one of the most vulnerable points of her life, Trisha Grant says she knew there were plenty of good law enforcement officers out there, but not those who she encountered when she was sex trafficked at age 15. Officers, she says, took part in the crime. It was 16 years after that crime when she finally confided in a former Auburn police chief that she felt she could trust.
He required his officers to take trainings and understand this issue of trafficking. But there are other departments who don't really understand it and don't get it.
Grant says victims lost in sex and human trafficking schemes count on police officers for help, but those officers don't always have the guidance they need to navigate these complicated crimes. That's why she and others are supporting a bill in the Maine legislature that would require police departments to adopt a standard protocol when handling sex trafficking cases.
This domestic violence agency here.
And as one of the few designated human trafficking prosecutors in Maine, Androscoggin County Assistant District Attorney Nathan Walsh is committed to getting justice for victims like Grant.
In my experience, the people who are experiencing prostitution on their own terms voluntarily are in the small minority.
Walsh says some police departments simply don't have the proper training to handle incidents of sex and human trafficking, missing opportunities to connect victims with resources.
So if they're suffering from, a lack of housing, substance use disorder, mental health issues, any of those things, it makes it that much harder, and there are a lot of obstacles to overcome to get them to a point where they feel as though that they can participate meaningfully at trial.
At the State House, Raya Wooten, News Center Maine.
Assistant District Attorney Walsh says successfully prosecuting felony sex trafficking cases heavily depends on cooperation from survivors. He says they need to be in the best position to eventually testify against their traffickers and offenders.